So now we are recording. So first of all, this session was organized to provide a revision session at Lanarkshire campus. And the plan was to deliver another session face-to-face at Paisley campus, but it seems, I will not be able to do so because of the strike that's going over the whole, kind of city, and some people will not be able to come. Anyway, we'll sort it out later on. So first of all, the exam that I'm going to cover today is last year one, January 2021. And I will go over the exam itself. Basically, Management Accounting 3 exam includes 3 sections. Section A is a compulsory question that have a kind of 40 marks for that you have to answer that. And then section B is 2 numerical questions with some comments and analysis, etc. You have to pick up one of them. And section C is pure theory questions or essay questions. You have to pick up one of them. So my advice to you is, of course, because you are going to have to answer the compulsory question straight away, you can go to question 1 and start dealing and engaging with answering question 1. But when you go for question 2 or section B to pick up one question, don't spend, spend something like 2 or 3 minutes to decide which question you are going to answer. Because what happened from experience, students saying, for example, we are going to answer question 2 and start engaging and start answering question 2. And then they realize, oh no, we can't, I can't remember, I don't know how to do the rest, etc. So they leave question 2 and they start answering question 3. Of course, this is waste of time, because for me as a marker or as examiner, I have to mark one question from this section. So please spend, couple of minutes to decide which question you are going to answer. And then once you started, carry on that. Don't leave it and start another question, because this is waste of time. The same with section C. Read both theory questions very well and decide which one you can answer better. So I will go here to answer the compulsory question for January 2021. It was about environmental management accounting, and it was about preparing environmental financial statements. And as you know, from the teaching and from the videos and from the workshops and tutorials, you know that for this particular questions, it has to be 3 years, because we are going to do some working in each 2 years with every 2 years separately. And also you have to read all the information that provided to you in the question. So it says here that this particular company, it's a garden products manufacturing, has been undertaken in environmental improvement program, which applies across its product range of olives and gardening equipment, etc. And you have a number of items, 2018, 2019, 2020. And then you have a number of some extra information to say, according to the environmental manager, the environmental program has increased the company greatly, bringing in an additional of 650,000 annual income. The new recycling gardening is 150 of recycling income. And then, of course, there is some kind of about risk and assessment, 270 as an insurance. And what is the requirement? Read the requirements very carefully, because reading the requirement will let you know how much you are going to spend in each requirement. So, for example, prepare environmental financial statements, and this will assign for that 20 marks. Comment on the results, 10 marks. And then another theory question to kind of make up the 40 marks. Implementing both quality and environmental program depends on both control and failure activities. So the solution is Of course, we have to prepare environmental financial statements. You know, preparing the financial statements, it has to include environmental benefits and environmental costs. For the environmental benefits, 3 items: income, current savings, and ongoing savings. Always income, it's some information provided to you in the question. So it's a copy paste from the question. We have here 150 and 650. These are the information I've got them from here, from the question. So all I have to do is 150. Also, I wanted to remind all of you that there is no any harm at all to put the C zeros here and put the figures 150, 650, 800, 700, etc. Just to eliminate the confusion and eliminate the mistakes. Of course, kind of putting the 3 zeros will let you just put 150, 650, we're reducing the number of zeros. And here, as you can see, I've put here, I allocated the mark because when I prepare any final exam, as you know, that the module has been delivered in 5 campuses, and there are some teaching team with me that we can make everything clear. So I'm telling them what mark allocated for each item. So for example, you can see here that this is for each row, I will put 1 mark. The total is 800. And then we are moving to calculate what's called the current savings and the ongoing savings. Not sure whether I put, okay. Yes, current savings here is the difference between 2019 and 2020, which means the last 2 years available to you in the question. And the ongoing saving is the opposite way around, the first 2 years provided to you in the question. And what is the rule to answer any of those? The rule is you have to look at each item, and you have a rule in your mind. Ask yourself the following question: whether there is any continuous reduction in this item or not. If there is a continuous reduction in the item, that means this item will be included under current saving and ongoing saving. If it's not, that means that it will be classified as environmental cost. Because why is that? Because we are preparing environmental financial statements, and we are preparing what are the benefits, how much money they reduced, how much money they saved, and this is we can see here. For example, the first item, disposing of hazard waste, it was 550 in 2018, reduced to become 350, reduced more to become 120. So this continuous reduction means this is a huge benefit for the company. That means we can include the hazard waste under the benefits. And then we can do the same. So let's go back. Of course, you apply, you do this for each item, and then you go for current savings. This is as I mentioned here, current saving is the difference between 2019 2020. So the items are disposing of hazard waste, and if you can have a wee look at that, you will find exactly the same items, because we are implementing the same rule, which is a continuous reduction on environmental activity. So disposing of hazard waste, we have to calculate the current savings and the ongoing savings. Releasing air contaminant is again, we have to calculate current saving and ongoing saving. Reducing scrap is the same. Operating pollution, using energy, redemption, but it's only the item that is not included in both. It's 720, because this is already mentioned to us in the question, and this is why it is different, or we adding that. So if we go back to the environmental, the benefits, and we covered the income, and then we move to current savings, we list all the items, okay, and ongoing savings and the current savings, and then adding them together. My advice to you, please prepare this table, especially while the exam this year is in person. So, of course, you can see, okay, I will, 350 take away 120. I will include the 230 straight away here. Honestly, believe me, this will not waste too much time or too much time in the 2 hours exam. But this will make sure that sometimes when you do the calculation activity on your calculator, you might copy it wrong, or you might miss a zero, or you might miss replace a figure instead of another figure. But when I mark, if I find these tables in front of me and these tables are absolutely correct, and when you copy down, you just kind of put a wrong figure, I still give you the 1 mark for that, because I saw the working. So please do the working while you do the calculation, because exams in person. And because I've received a number of emails saying, oh yeah, can we do this? So, of course you will get a exam script to answer the exams on. So you have to do everything on your own to go back to the kind of the old days before COVID. So if you have to use your calculators, you have to use your rulers, and you have to use your pens and pencils, etc. By the way, there is no any harm at all if you put, for example, the subtotals in different figure, in different color, or highlighted by highlighter, by yellow, by green, by some students find this helpful. I have no problems at all with anything like that. You can do whatever, but my advice to you, please practice, practice, practice. When you try to answer any lecture question, any tutorial questions, any questions from past papers, allocate some time and do the practice as if you are in the final exam situation. Just have a ruler, organize yourself. Please try not to scribble. Use the pen or the pencil, and do the color. It's your exam script. And also remember something. Do not forget to add the subtotals. Subtotals are really very important, because once you do the subtotal for income, and subtotal for current savings, and subtotal for ongoing savings, this will be very easy to get the total benefit. You add only 3 figures instead of adding all, the 10 items or 15 items or whatever. So I hope this is clear. And then preparing environmental financial statements, we have to have, because it's financial statements. We have to have a section on benefits and then another section on expenses. So we'll go with the expenses. What we are going to do. Remember that we are preparing the environmental financial statements for 2020. This is the requirement. Excuse me. So it's in the requirement here, prepare an environmental financial statements for 2020 for the product division. So we are preparing the financial statements for 2020. That means when we calculated the benefits, it's all to do with the 2020. And then the second part of environmental financial statements is the environmental costs. But when it comes to the environmental costs, that is part of the environmental financial statements, remember that we are preparing the environmental costs for 2020. This is very important to know as well. Going back to, we know that environmental costs, the same as quality cost, classify into prevention, detection, internal failure, and external failure. So all you have to do is just to go back and see what are the items from the questions that can include under prevention, that can be classified under detection, that can be classified under internal failure and under external failure. So from the figures, and again, because we are preparing for 2020, that's the environmental cost for 2020. That means designing under prevention. from the items that you practice on during the tutorials and during the year. The designing the process and the products is under prevention, training employees under prevention, under detection, measuring contaminating release, inspecting process, and then you add the subtitles for total prevention is 930, total detection 555, and then the total control activities, adding them together, because you know that control activities includes prevention and detection. And then we move to the failure activities. Failure activities consists of internal failure and external failure. Under internal failure, these are the items, and again, you have to include the internal failure, the subtotals for that, and the subtotal for external failure, just to make it easier, and the total environmental cost will be 3970. Up until now, you completed the requirement number 1. Okay, so requirement number 1 in preparing environmental financial statement for the last year provided to you. That means income includes the benefits and the costs. Under the benefits, you put the recycling, any income, recycling, whatever, and then ongoing cost, ongoing saving, and the current savings. And in the cost part, you will include as if you are preparing environmental cost report. You classify the items under prevention, detection, internal and external. And that means 20%. I forgot to mention that I do allocate, when it comes to in-person exam, I do allocate some mark for the presentation of the tables. So, when the tables are nice and neat and clean, you get some marks for that. This is why I'm telling you, please just practice before going to the exam. So if you count all of them, I think I might allocate 3 marks or whatever for the presentation. Second requirement, comment on the results you have achieved in part A. To comment on the results, of course, we cannot comment or compare environmental cost report. If you remember, when we prepare quality cost report or environmental cost report, it has to be for 2 years. It doesn't matter to be for 2 following years, but it has to be for 2 years to be able to compare. So here, is the preparing environmental costs for 2018, which is the first year, and then again moving to present the environmental cost to prevention, detection, internal and external failure, and then you can see you can again do following the same by calculating the total prevention, calculate the total per category, total detection, just to get the total control activities for 2018, and again the internal failure, total internal failure, and the external failure to get the total external failure, and then you get the total cost. Of course, the total cost, prevention, detection, internal and external failure. Or if you already calculate the control variable, or you are going to do is just add the control variable to the total failure, and then you get the total environmental cost. So I think I've explained this in many times in the videos, and of course in the tutorials, etc. It's basically you tell the story. What happened in this story? Read, please try to learn how to read behind numbers. What does this mean? What this company is doing? Of course, we agree that the company implemented an environmental program, and within the environmental program over 3 years. Of course, in practice might be over 5, 7, 10 years, but based on for simplification, etc., it's for 3 years here. So you can just explain what's happening. You might say, based on the environmental program that the company achieved, talk about the benefits and talk about the environmental cost and what happens, etc., etc., etc. So this, once you do that, once you calculate the environmental, because this is, you will get some marks for that to prepare the environmental cost in 2018. I'm repeating myself here 100 times. Preparing the environmental cost for the first year in the question is not part of requirement number 1, and it is not part of preparing environmental financial statements. Preparing environmental financial statements will be only for the last year provided to you. So the last year provided to you, will make it the last year provided to you, you are going to use to prepare the environmental benefits, and you are going to prepare the environmental costs based on 2020 or the last year, whatever it is. But the second part of the question, you have to prepare environmental costs for the first year provided to you in the question. I hope this is clear, because many students asked me, why, you know, we can include the can we put it the same as when we prepare the environmental quality cost to compare between them in one table? You can do this in part 2, but in part 1, because it's one environmental financial statements that include the top part is benefits and the bottom part is the costs. So, and once you finish with that, if you want to copy paste the 2020 or the last year and then compare with the first year, you can do so, but you cannot include the first year of environmental cost along with the last year of environmental cost as part of environmental financial statements. I hope this is clear. Moving to the third part, implementing both quality and environmental program depending on managing both control and failure activity. And this was in March. So, of course, you know that when we prepared the quality cost report, I think I explained this 100 times, that in quality, when we prepare the quality cost report, it's a prevention, appraisal, internal and external. Prevention appraisal, they call control cost. Internal and external, these are the failure costs. And when the company implemented a quality improvement program, that means they have to invest more money in the control activities, which means prevention and appraisal, to get more reduction into internal and external failure. So the more money the company invests in the control activities, the more reduction they would in the failure activities. The companies should continue doing so and implementing this quality improvement program until all the money when they prepare the quality cost report, until both internal failure and external failure become zero. And this is where companies can claim that we are implementing a zero defect policy. Because zero defect policy means no failure activities, either internal or external. If we implemented the same concept on environmental, that means exactly the same, but we are going to change instead of saying the quality improvement program, we are saying environmental improvement program, and the environmental improvement program that the company should invest more money into prevention detection to get more reduction in both internal and external failure. And again, companies should continue investing in control activities until both internal and external failure become zero. I hope this is clear. Of course, you can support your answers with questions with examples. If you have any examples in your mind that prevention, whatever, and you know, rough figures, you can support this with your example, with a numerical, very simple numerical example. Section B. Section B is again, Section B is 2 questions. You have to pick up one of them. And I'm repeating myself again for the 2 questions. Give yourself a couple of minutes to decide, which one you are going to go for. And once you decide and once you start, do not move to the other question. Focus on one question, and that's it. Because if you start and leave it and go for other question, that's waste of time. The other question, which is very favorite as well, is the decentralization. Decentralization, of course, it's always 3 divisions, and we give you some information, and we ask you to kind of, this kind of particular topic of question, we integrate activity-based costing along with decentralization to find how companies are presenting and how companies are calculating everything. So, and here there are some information, of course, to calculate the activity-based costing, and some information about some other activities, etc. And the requirement, of course, the requirement for that to prepare, first of all, calculate the rates. To calculate the rates, it's basically total cost divided by total quantity. And where we get that from? We get it from the question, from the information provided to you in the question. These are the total costs and these are the total qualities, total activity, I mean the quantity. And that means we have these are the rates that we are going to use these rates to do some working on them. Okay, so these are the rates that we are going to use to prepare the big table. And here we are going to put the rates here. I think I will change. Okay, so here are the rates. Let me change this to. So we are going to use these rates to do some allocation for each segment, or for each division, or for each department. But we have here some units from Glasgow, Edinburgh, Dundee. So where did they get that from? These are the units for each division. So all we are going to do is to get that and do the allocation using the activity-based costing that we already calculated. So 140 times 10, 1400, 80 times 5, 400, and so on. So we are using these rates, and we are going to use, sorry, these are the units that I'm telling you that we have got these units from from the questions. And of course, these are the rates that we are. So this is allocated here. I've allocated here 2 marks, I think, for the rates, half a mark for each rate. Yes, and then for that 4 marks, that means 1 mark for each row. Okay. And then I will go and prepare the big table. As you can see, the big table, 1 mark, 1 mark, 1 mark. But again, if you are, there will be some marks for presentation, for how tidy and how neat and how clean your table is. So please, again, do some practice at home before going to the exam. As I mentioned, I think in the videos and in the tutorials 100 times, and this is 101. The 2 items only that copy based from the questions are sales and cost of goods sold. So we start with the big table, insert sales in all segments, and of course remember that while you are preparing, of course I will mention it in the question, please prepare the segment reporting and the total column. Total column is important because, as you know, we have to allocate some fixed cost for the total, fixed cost for each segment, and there is some fixed cost allocated to the total company. So you have to have a column for the total company. So once we sorry. So again, sales. I will highlight sales again. And cost of goods sold. You know, although it's a copy paste, I give you 1 mark for it as well. And here, of course, another 1 mark I didn't put it. It's a copy paste from the question. All you have to do is just kind of, you know, make sure that you are, while you are preparing that, you know, draw the table, go to the question, copy paste sales, copy paste cost of goods sold, and then calculate it. And remember, because, you know, part of answering the question to do the allocation or the percentage. The percentages related to each column, not each row. Okay, so we have 100% for all the totals, 100% for Glasgow, 100% for Edinburgh, 100% for Dundee. Okay, and then sales support. You remember, while you are reading in the question it says here, sales support, order processing, packing, and shipping are considered to be variable costs. Warehousing, general management, advertising are considered to be fixed. I must admit that, you know, because you are a third year, you should know what is variable, what is fixed. But, you know, I give you this information clearly for you to know which items can be classified as variable, which items can be classified as fixed. When we are going to list the variable expenses, of course, you know, mentioning again the cost of goods sold is the first item under variable, and then we are adding sales support, order processing, packaging. Where we get these figures from, remember, we have prepared all this hardware not for decoration. We are going to use the figures for that. So we are going to put 1400, 980, 420 for sales support and so on. So if we go for sales support, 1400, 980, 420, adding them together, this will be sales support. Total variable expenses, and remember, please, if you miss any row, that means you will miss a mark for that, because sales take away all the variable costs. Variable costs include cost of goods sold, sales support, order processing, packing, and shipping, and then adding the total variable cost together, and then calculate the contribution margin. Contribution margin is the difference between sales and cost of goods sold. So the difference is the contribution margin is between sales and all the variable costs. And then we have to add the traceable fixed costs. Traceable fixed costs are, or what are the fixed costs according to the question? They mention that warehousing, advertising, general management classified as traceable fixed costs. Remember, when we prepare that, there is warehousing here. The warehousing here should go as a first item under traceable fixed costs. And then we have advertising, as you can see, some traceable, some common. We are going to pick up what is the traceable here. We add it in under the traceable for both advertising and general management. And then, of course, up until now, once you take away the traceable fixed cost for each division and for the total company from the contribution margin, you get the segment margin. This is how you get the segment margin. If you take away all the common fixed cost, where we get the common fixed cost, if we go back to the question here, advertising, it includes 2 components, traceable and common, and the general management include 2 components, traceable and common. We are going to focus on the common only because we calculated the segment reporting. And the common fixed costs are the advertising and general management. Adding them together, take them away from the segment, which will be the profit of the company. So how to comment, the last one, how to comment on the revised segment prepared above. Again, it's because big picture is different. I cannot say, okay, follow this, do this exactly the same. Have a we look at everything, because I forgot to mention something, how we calculate the percentage. Any figure in the total column, you get 5,500 divided by 20,000, hit the percentage, you will get this figure. For Glasgow, 2,500 divided by the 8,000, hit the percentage, you will get 31.25, and so on. So, and I will mention to you, percentage should be rounded to 2 decimal places if these questions come up in the exam. Every question is different. Every segments are different. So you can tell, I think you learned how to comment on the results from the videos and from the tutorials, etc. So basically, tell what's happening in terms of number in writing. Simple as that. Section 3 is about productivity. I think this is the last topic we covered about productivity. And with productivity, if you remember, we had one output for each year and different types of inputs. Why is that? Because when we used to measure efficiency is a relationship between inputs and outputs. But what happened previously, they used to add all the inputs together and link them to one output. But basically, this is, once we do this, we get one kind of, a relationship between output, all the inputs and one output. So when we compare figures between years or between companies, we cannot decide which one of them contributed more to, profit or loss or whatever. This is why researchers said, oh, no, we have to do something. And this is why they came with the idea of partial productivity ratios. What partial productivity ratio means that we are going to link each input to each output, part of the inputs to the output. This is why it's called the partial productivity ratios. And of course, remember that, okay, well, I will mention this later on. So the calculation is, of course, the partial productivity ratios, the 800 for the output for, it's 801,200,000. And here are the output units. And here are the output for the ratios, 40, 100, 40,000, 10,000, 20, 50, and 30, 38. Sorry, this is 2020. And you get the partial productivity ratios. As you can see, partial productivity ratios, you can get 2 marks for each one of them. Okay. Second part is bringing the, all of them together. I think I've mentioned in the videos, the second part of this, to answering this question, is to link some figures from last year to some figures from the current year. So the output of this current year, we are going to link it to the partial productivity ratios of last year. We really need to see the relationships between figures and inputs and outputs over 2 years. So here is the partial productivity ratio for 2019. And here is the outputs for 2020. So the first column, we get it from the output for 2020 divided by the partial productivity ratio for 2019. And then we get basically, if you try, think about this type of question as you are doing actual and costing. You do the actual cost and actual price, standard cost, standard price, and all of that. So we got the quantities are 60, 15, 30, 75, and then the prices. The prices that we are going to use in this, the second part of this question, always is the current prices, not the previous prices. So as you can see here, 16, 6%, 5, and so on. Multiply this, you will get this figure, and this is the actual quantity. These are the quantities for the current year, for 2020, which are 30, 8, 40,000, 440, and you get that. And all you really need to do is compare this column with this column to get that, to get this one. And as you can see, I will put this. As you can see, this is the figures. Discuss the difference between just in time and just in case. I think just we comparing between just in time and just in case. I have in the PowerPoint of just in time and just in case, I created a table that the differences between just in time and just in case. If you read this table and you know it properly, I'm not saying you know it off by heart, but understand it. And this is basically the what's it called, the cell, that you know there is one graph in the PowerPoint about the comparing between just in time and just in case inside the plant, or how it works. If you understand it this very very well, you will be able to understand or to provide an answer of what is the difference between just in time and just in case. Section C. Section C, I think I've mentioned previously that one of the section C will be related to your coursework. So for example, last year was only biodiversity. So this year, because biodiversity and circular economy, so please prepare to answer a question on that. What is biodiversity? What is biodiversity? What is the link between biodiversity and businesses? What is the link between biodiversity and circular economy? Why do you think it's important? What is the link between COVID and biodiversity? And provide example. When I say provide example, I don't want you to memorize what's happening in all the indexes that I provided to you, but at least a summary of your company. Say, for example, Marks and Spencer doing this and this. Toyota as a car company is doing this and that. They started to do this. So a summary. If you meet someone in a street and you know someone asking you what did you do in your coursework, and you say blah 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 blah, and I investigated whatever company. Disney, for example, Disney was a very common company this year. Disney, what did you find in general? So kind of have a quick read about your coursework to find what conclusion you find, what is the background about this company, why you selected this company, that there's some kind of did they engage with biodiversity, did they engage with circular, what did they say and what did they do in a very simple way. I'm not asking you, again, I'm repeating myself, I'm not asking you to memorize stuff and memorize the whole disclosure index and put it for me with a score 0, 1, 2, 3. No, it's a summary of what your company is all about. So for example, if you are in a call like this and I say, okay, let me know what did you do with your, you know, what happened with company. Each one can say something, each one of you can say something. So you can say in 3, 4, 5 minutes, say the company is doing this or doing that, or helping the environment, or doing this or doing biodiversity. They invest money in that. Some generic about the company that you investigate. Last thing is supporter of eco-efficiency argue that environmental perspectives should be reflected in the balanced scorecard. I think this one I explained it in some of the videos or some of the questions as well, and it's already available in many past papers. If you have a question like this that worth, for example, 30 marks, how you are going to answer that? When I say the eco-efficiency concept, there is a difference between eco-efficiency concept and the eco-efficiency definition. With the eco-efficiency concept, you have to provide eco-efficiency definition, opportunities, outcomes, benefits, and then talk about what balanced scorecard, because the question asking you to link two of them. So you have to tell me what each one of them means, and then linking them together and including the environmental perspective. I think I've mentioned this in the videos or in the teaching. I can't remember, because there was, you know, I don't want to say that there was two points of view about integrating environmental into balanced scorecard. Some people or some researchers saying we have to include to kind of add another perspective to the four perspectives, to call them, a fifth perspective for environment. And the other researchers, which I'm one of them, saying no, we have to integrate environment in each one of these dimensions, or each one of these perspectives, in the infrastructure, in the internal process, in dealing with customers, in dealing with profit. Because nowadays, as you are expert now, companies cannot survive only with achieving profits and full stop. They cannot, because dealing with planet, because put in your mind, any company have to think about three B's: people, profit, planet. Without the three B's together, they will be out of the business. They cannot think as 20 years ago, okay, no, shareholders and the profit and financial statements or financial information are as equal, as important as the non-financial information. And sometimes the non-financial information are more important. So although the non-financial information is still voluntarily, but of course, we are working, as with standard, etc. It will be mandatory very soon. If you are on LinkedIn, I did share a post last night to say accountants will save the planet, which we will, because from disclosure practice, from reporting practices, we are saying which companies are doing amazingly in terms of environment, biodiversity, circular economy, climate change, upon reporting, and then we inform other companies to be the lead and working. So it's not separate from accounting; it's an integral part from accounting. There are many universities in UK and all over the world started to provide some master in climate change, biodiversity, circular economy, including accounting. It's not science. We are in the interdisciplinary areas. I will stop share. And I'm happy to answer any questions, guys. If you have any questions.